All right, well, welcome everyone. My name is Peter Verdorn. I'm the Director of Membership over at TPC Sawgrass, and certainly appreciate everyone coming out today for today's luncheon on hurricane preparedness. We'll start today by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, so if everyone could please stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd also like to thank the attendees for coming today, and again, for everybody to come out for this important program. And we'd also like to recognize board members of the Chambers, Mary Ann Thomas and Scott Rock. And we'd like to introduce our three sponsors for today's event and thank them as well. The first one being Community Hospice and Palliative Care. If you want to come up and say a few words.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? I see a lot of friendly faces. I'm with Community Hospice and Palliative Care, and we have been serving this community since 1979. We're a true nonprofit hospice, and that means we are mission focused. We do not report to stockholders, we report to the community. And from our certified nursing assistant to our CEO, we're all members of the community of Northeast Florida and really work to make sure that the patients we serve have the best experience possible. And because we are a true nonprofit, in addition to the services that we have that hospices have, the nurse, the social worker, the chaplains, the nursing assistants, we also have special programs. We have music therapists that go out and visit with the families. It makes such a difference for patients and families and brings so much joy, and it is evidence-based. And we have massage therapy, and we have a program where we can go out and help take care of their pets so they can stay at their side for the duration. And we have child life specialists. So we have a lot of different programs so that we can make the experiences for patients and families as wonderful as it possibly can be. And we really focus on quality of life. We don't want anyone to need us, but we want everyone to know we are here when and if you or a loved one do. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and thank you for all the work you do for the community. Our next sponsor we'd like to thank is Rocket Solutions.
All right, thanks everybody. Kelly, I promise I won't steal too much of your thunder here, but I do want to speak to, how's this thing work? Get that out of my face. Can everybody hear me now? It's a small room. All right, good afternoon everybody. Oh, you're Mike. Sure, Chris, I'll do it for you, Chris. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Obviously, we live in Florida. Hurricane preparation isn't something that's theoretical. Most of us have a pretty good idea of what that entails at this point. If you've been around for any length of time, you check the generator, you buy some extra fuel, bring your chairs in from outside, make sure you got water, batteries, plywood, whatever else you think you might need. But you want to do that before Jim Cantori is standing on your street, because at that point, it's really time to panic than anything else. Business technology works in a similar way. And one of the things that I've learned serving businesses here since 2011 is that the biggest risk isn't a hurricane, a hacker, or an old computer. It's really the environment that nobody owns. And when I say that, I mean the server that's in the closet that everybody depends on that nobody is responsible for. The backup that everybody just assumes is working. It's the 10-year-old computer running some critical piece of the business because technically it still turns on. It's the password that one employee knows. And individually, none of those things look like a crisis necessarily, and that's why they're easy to ignore. Over time, businesses accumulate what I refer to as technical debt. And it's a lot like ignoring a roof leak. You can put it off for a while and save that money today, but eventually you're not just paying for shingles, you're paying for drywall, flooring, mold remediation, damaged equipment, and the big one, downtime. If you don't understand what downtime costs in your business, I urge you to explore that, because it's good to understand what an hour of downtime costs your business. You might be surprised. But anyway, technology is no different. Employees will start creating workarounds when those systems don't get replaced, documentation gets outdated, backups don't get tested. Somebody fixes that immediate problem so everybody can just get back to work. And then the dangerous thing happens. That problem becomes the normal until something changes. Maybe it's a hurricane. Maybe your internet goes down. Maybe the accounting computer decides to retire without giving you appropriate 2 weeks notice. Maybe somebody clicks the wrong email. Different causes, same business question. Can I keep operating? That's what storm prep means to us at Rocket. It isn't just putting equipment on a battery backup. It isn't just making sure somebody has a laptop. For a medical or chiropractic office, it might be access to schedules, patient communication, records. For a contractor or service-based business, it's going to be dispatch, estimates, billing, the ability to reach your crews in the field. The storm might only last a day, but the business impact can be much longer if systems that keep money moving, customers informed, and employees productive aren't ready. It's knowing what you have, knowing what the weak points are, and having a plan before you need one. So our approach is real simple. We meet, we plan, we execute, and then we manage it for you. We document the environment. We identify things that could stop the business. We verify backups and recovery. We look at internet redundancy, power, remote access, security, aging systems, single points of failure. I know it all sounds like minutia, but when we put those things on a roadmap, the owner knows where they stand instead of flying blind. Because that business owner didn't get into business to run IT, but when it breaks, it still lands on that person. So we help manage and plan so that they can get back to business. And sometimes before the next storm, ask yourself these 3 questions. If you lost power tomorrow, what happens? If we lose internet or a critical system goes down tonight, how long does it take us to operate again? Who owns that plan? If you don't know the answers, that doesn't mean catastrophe is waiting, but it does mean you're flying blind. And the good news is the moment you see the risks, you can start planning for them. If you're not sure where your weak points are, look around. Start the conversation before the forecast gives you that deadline. Have a hard look at systems in the business that depends on it, identify single points of failure, turn those unknowns into practical action. Hope isn't a continuity plan. Preparation is. And when that storm does come, your technology provider should be the calmest person in that room. So that's how we approach it. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And our third sponsor of today's program, Amada Senior Care.
I don't usually use these because I'm pretty loud, but just first and foremost, thanks everybody for coming. It's a hugely important topic to have a hurricane preparedness. So we put together a little bag. It's got some useful hurricane preparedness items in there. So my name is Tom Nicholson, and I'm with Amada Senior Care. And along with my wife, Nita, we've owned Amada Senior Care and been taking care of seniors in Jacksonville for 7 years. And we do in-home non-medical care. So if folks are a fall risk or they need help bathing or dressing, feeding, showering, those types of things, we can go into the home and help them. And then all of our CNAs and HHAs are also trained to manage all of the symptoms of dementia, so we can help with dementia care as well. And we do work closely with communities, with organizations like Community Hospice out there in the community helping our seniors. One of the things that we really focus on is helping seniors also to find payment sources, because sometimes they need the care, but it's not always an economic situation where they can afford it. So we are one of the few VA community care approved vendors or suppliers in Jacksonville. Jacksonville for us includes Ponte Vedra, Nocatee, and St. John's from St. John's perspective, and then all the way all of Duval, Clay, Nassau, and Baker counties. We also are experts at helping them understand and manage their long-term care insurance benefits, and we do that all at no charge. So we recently were just voted the best franchise in North Florida by Guide to Florida magazine for the 4th year. So we're pretty proud of that, but if you know of folks who may need help in the home can be a private home, it could be a memory care unit, it can be assisted living, it could be independent living. A lot of times we go and help people in independent living who don't want to progress to assisted living, so we'll go there and help them with some of the day-to-day things that they need. And then we can also help with items like medication reminders, light housekeeping, bed care, and meal preparation. So that's what we do, and I appreciate you all coming.
Thank you once again, sponsors, for supporting the Chamber and for this event today. Now we'll introduce our first speaker, who's Kelly Wilson. Kelly Wilson has served St. Johns County since 2006, beginning as the Emergency Management Planner, Emergency Management Coordinator, and now as the Deputy Director of Emergency Management. Wilson specializes in comprehensive emergency management planning, including hazard mitigation, planning, and continuity of operations planning. Kelly?
Thank you, sir. I'm going to take this with me because I don't do well standing in a single spot and he wants to hear me. So it was great that these folks, thank you for having me here. I was here last year, so some of you may have heard me. I've got a whole new thing, similar but the same. But it was really good to hear the gentleman here from Rocket. What he was talking about was continuity of operations planning is what we talk about. What he talks about is critical, and it's especially because we've moved forward in that world. We've moved forward because what I used to say is where he talks about losing power, what would you do tomorrow if you showed up to work and the building was gone? Well, what COVID taught all of us is, honestly, we could probably still operate. We need the infrastructure, we need the internet, we need the computers, we need all of those pieces. So he is critically right, and we are moving even as government, because any of you that work for government know that we move a little bit slower. It's a giant, much slowly moving beast. But we have to be able to continue our operations. In our world, where we usually start is, what are you legally or statutorily required to do? What, to many of you, it's going to be regarding your business, what do we have to do to keep our business? And I'll tell you, one of the biggest things that we start with is, how do you keep paying people? Because I promise you, if you keep paying them, I can't say that. I can promise you, if you do not pay them, they will probably stop working. So that is one of the most critical things that we always start with. And if it's write paper checks, because in the county, we still have the ability for almost 2,000 employees, it would be a rough day in finance, but they can still write checks if they had to. So that's critical. And then our folks from the healthcare community, like community hospice, she comes to our healthcare. We would love to have you, Amada, at our healthcare. These folks are critical to our operations. I'll talk about sheltering. Each one of you should have a hurricane preparedness guide. I'm going to hold that in my hand while I talk to you. That hurricane preparedness guide, you'll see we talk about sheltering, we talk about especially our special medical needs sheltering. These folks are the ones that help us get the folks in our community who live at home but are medically dependent upon something, and usually it's electricity. We put those folks in a special shelter in St. Johns County, and we have 2 of them, and those are, our Department of Health manages those, and they're for folks who are somewhat medically fragile. And these people do a lot of the work because they see these clients in their home and they help get them registered with us. So I'm glad that they were all here and talked about what they do. Now I'm going to see if I can find here we go. Okay, so I'm here to talk about preparedness, and sometimes we like to start with a few things. Storm impacts don't start at the coast. Today we happen to be at a beautiful coastline right here along Ponte Vedra Beach, but those impacts don't stop at the coast. Inland, many storms. If we look at the storms that have come across, let me start here. Who lives inland? I'm going to say inland. I'm going to say west of the Intercoastal Waterway. Okay? You probably lost power from a hurricane, haven't you? Sure. Potentially had some flooding, right? Those impacts don't stop at the coast. As a matter of fact, what you will start seeing with products this year from the National Hurricane Center, it will officially no longer be a sample. Last year I talked about it. It will be part of the official forecast. You will see, remember how you see the state of Florida would be outlined with a watch or a warning? Now that will cover inland areas to show people those hurricane force winds will affect you inland. They don't just stop at the coast. Outages can last days and weeks. I will tell you, up here, I know some folks have Beaches Energy. Much of this county has Florida Power and Light, and then we have some folks in the Northwest with JEA. They do a fairly good job. I will say, I believe it was after Milton. Those 3 ran together a bit. FP&L lost a line that went underneath the Intercoastal Waterway. So Ponte Vedra, we had about 2,400 customers in Ponte Vedra who did not have power for it's about 5 days. I will tell you that fixing a power line that goes underneath water is not an easy thing, and they did a phenomenal job getting it back within about 4 to 5 days. I believe the longest I was without power in the 20 years that I've been doing this was Hurricane Irma. My house I live in an old neighborhood with a whole lot of trees. They were without power, and I say they were without power at my house for 8 days because I was at work. But all of my neighbors were calling me and texting me, can't you do something about this? Because it was really hot. So it's another thing to think about. Injuries happen after the storm. What are we talking about? We're talking about the folks that have decided to go buy a generator but have not figured out how to properly use that generator, how to properly hook it up, how to properly make sure it is vented. We talk about some of those things inside the guide. So we're going to look at several of the things, and we're going to talk about just the weather for a minute. We've got several storms right now. Well, I shouldn't say that. We have the potential for some storms sitting out in the ocean right now if you've looked at the Hurricane Center's webpage. We do that every day, every morning this time of year, and we see that right now we look like we may be somewhat fortunate because there's a lot of wind shear in the Atlantic Ocean, in the Atlantic Basin right now. Why is there a lot of wind shear? Because of the El Nino you've been hearing about for months and months and months. The El Nino brings a lot of wind shear to the ocean, which can help us because it tears hurricanes apart. Forecast cones don't equal impact area. This goes back to that part where I was telling y'all that impacts aren't just at the coast. This is Ian. That would have been 2022. We evacuated folks for Ian. We sheltered people. We had some significant amounts of flooding from Ian. You will notice that Ian started Ian came from the Gulf, came all the way across the state as a major hurricane. Now, what you're looking at is both the cone for Ian and then the satellite image of Ian at the same time. You probably notice that Ian was well outside that cone. It's because the cone is only showing you where the middle of the storm goes. It's not showing you where the entirety of the impacts are. The impacts went all the way past Tallahassee, well into the Panhandle. You're looking at Apalachicola. It was raining it there from there. So what I need everybody to understand from this is, one, that track will change. It'll wiggle and it'll wobble. And a wobble of 50 or 100 miles can make a very big difference in the weather that you experience, the risk, the amount of water it pushes. It will change, and the size matters. Some storms in size mean they're small around, some were very big. Irma was very big. Ian was very big. Eyes don't seem to be overly kind to the state of Florida. Storm surge. We like to put storm surge on things. We are working with our communications folks to create graphics of things around St. Augustine, things like the fort, the lighthouse, and to put people standing next to them, because it's a much stronger image to put a human being standing next to a building and then put lines on it to explain to you what does 6 feet of storm surge look like. It is going to be well over most of our head, and I understand I have some very tall people here, but the rest of us will likely be standing underwater. And when you hear that storm surge forecast, it will come out about 2 days ahead of a hurricane's impact. When they say 6 to 9 feet, they mean above ground. They mean if I'm standing out there right now and they say that it's at this country club, they mean 6 to 9 feet above ground where I'm standing, not above sea level. Okay? We're not talking about sea level. People tell me all the time that they live 15 feet above sea level and 12 feet. When this gets predicted, it is above ground. They've already taken sea level into account. This is our watches and warnings. I was talking a little bit ago about watches and warnings. Yesterday, how many times did your phone ding because you were under a severe thunderstorm warning? Ours did about 5 times because I have my house set, which I live over by the St. Augustine Airport, and then my work set. The EOC's out at 16 and 95. We went under about 5 different severe thunderstorm warnings yesterday throughout the county. The difference in a warning and a watch, because folks get confused. Usually I like to talk about tornadoes especially. Watches mean we have the ingredients. So if we're making cookies, we have them all sitting on the counter, we're ready to go. If you're under a tornado watch, all the ingredients for a tornado are in the atmosphere. The heating, the uplift, the winds, all those ingredients are sitting there. So what they're telling you is at any moment, a tornado could form and you need to be aware. A warning means that we are physically eating them. So if you hear a tornado warning, a tornado means you need to take immediate life safety action right now. You need to go to the most interior room of your home and take cover in there. Shut every door between you and there and take cover inside that bathroom, because most places, if you live at lowest level too, if you have a 2-story structure. Because in Florida, that's usually going to be the safest place that you have. So when you hear warning, that means that whatever it is, you need to take immediate life safety action. It is happening right now. So hurricane season, what are we going to do? We're in the middle of it, right? We are cruising into the height of hurricane season. The most active part of hurricane season begins in August. The height happens around the 10th of September, and then it very, very slowly starts to ease back off late into October. Why do you suppose this is? Why is it the height of hurricane season and it starts way back in June? The ocean's very warm. The ocean has had time to warm up. So it's going to be at its warmest point. So the warmer the ocean is, that's part of the fuel for the hurricanes. That's why it takes, and we'll see little ones, they'll pop up. But the most intense, they start coming off of Africa. The waves start coming off of Africa this time of year. So we need to make a plan, build a kit, and be informed. And I've been talking a lot about risk. Knowing your risk is what we need you to do. Wind or water, or both. If you live at the beach, it's both. It's a twofer for you. Inland, where do you live inland? Do you live in a flood zone? Flood zones and evacuation zones are different. And you're like, wait, Kelly, wait, I've always heard, because I know you've heard this, because I believe it. I believe the message is out. We evacuate for water, not wind, right? We do. We evacuate for water, not wind. We evacuate you out of storm surge zones. Storm surge is the water that is pushed or pulled, right? So we evacuate you because of that water. Evacuation, and you're like, but wait a second, why are you now telling me a flood zone's different? Flood zones are based on freshwater flooding. It is not based on storm surge flooding, which is usually salt water. So do you live in a flood zone? Does your mortgage require you to carry flood insurance? That's usually how you absolutely know any flood zone. I'm going to talk about flood insurance in a minute, but I'll go ahead and tell you, you live in Florida. You live in a flood zone. Determine if you know if you live in an evacuation zone. I'm going to show you how to find out. Structural risk. Do you live in an old home? We have changed building codes in Florida in the early 2000s. If you live in an old home, you may need to look at that home. Look at the roof structure. Look at your windows. We need to understand our risk from both water and wind. So this is where I get, do I have any insurance people in the room? I always have insurance people in the room for the chamber. All right. We're going to have to make sure we get our insurance folks here. Insurance, flood versus homeowners. We all have to have, well, we all should have homeowners insurance, which I understand. It's overly expensive. It's really expensive right now. If you have a mortgage, you are absolutely required to carry it. Versus flood insurance. If you live in an identified by FEMA flood zone, you are required to carry flood insurance. Otherwise, you are not required to carry flood insurance. I live in an evacuation zone. I do not live in a flood zone. I will tell you, when I look at the flood maps, it comes right up to the back of my house. And with that, I'm going to tell you a story. In my neighborhood, I told you I live just north of the St. Augustine Airport. If you know where the British pub used to be, it's now something else. Yes, the Wobbly Whale. That is the neighborhood I live in. See, there we go. You're coming in for me. It is now the Wobbly Whale. I live in the neighborhood back there. About 2 years ago, I'm standing in the grocery store. It's a little after 5. The National Weather Service calls me and says, hey, are you at home? And I was like, no, I'm standing in the grocery store. They're like, there's a cell sitting over your neighborhood right now. And it's been sitting there for a while, and we're becoming concerned about flooding. I said, okay. And when I tell you a cell that is sitting over my neighborhood, I mean, it's just south of Palencia. It is over my neighborhood and maybe one. And mine's an old neighborhood. It's just some roads with ditches and older houses, okay? I pull into my neighborhood maybe 15 minutes later, and I pull in off of US 1, and I go to make a turn, and the road's completely underwater. And I've never, in the entirety of the 15 years I've lived there, seen it like that. So I called him back, and I was like, yes, indeed, it is flooding. The closer I got to my house, I was like, we're going to stop here. I pulled into my neighbor's driveway, which I got up to close to their house, and I was like, I'm not going any further, because what does the National Weather Service tell you about water on roads? Turn around, don't drown. Good job, you guys. Turn around, don't drown. We had several houses in my neighborhood take water inside the livable space. That was one afternoon, about 2 hours, dropped 7 inches of rain. Dropped it just in one neighborhood. My neighborhood's not in a flood zone. Those folks got water in their house. They didn't have flood insurance. So what I tell you is there is nothing to say that doesn't happen, because it's just weather. If you lived in Florida for any length of time, sometimes it happens. Fort Lauderdale about 3 years ago, it rained 25 inches in about a day. It closed the international airport in Fort Lauderdale because it was underwater. It just happens sometimes. So flood insurance, especially if you're not required to carry it, is actually reasonably priced. It is much cheaper than your homeowner's insurance. It is underwritten by the National Flood Insurance Program. So there is something similar to this in your brochure. I recommend you buy flood insurance. If you didn't hear a single other thing I said today, buy flood insurance for your home or your business. Home preparations. This goes for your business as well. Same thing. Let's talk about our windows. If we don't have impact windows, let's check garage doors, roofs, clean gutters. He was talking about picking up things. Let's pick up the things in the trees. You got any trees that when the wind blows, they kind of scrape against the house? Let's get those trimmed up. Now is the correct time. I will tell you, in my neighborhood last week, Florida Power and Light was out trimming trees on power lines. And usually it irritates people because they are not trimming those trees to look nice. They are trimming those trees to get them out of power lines. But they are out there to try and keep power to everybody. That is the most important thing to them. So it's an excellent time to do that. Do you know your zone? This is how you find out any St. Johns County address. Your home, your business, your kids' schools, daycares, anything like that. Know which zone. This is how we will call evacuations. We will call evacuations by zone. Because usually hurricanes are kind of slow moving, many times we'll be able to give you a heads up, and we will tell you. We will get on TV and tell you, hey, now's the time. You should probably start preparing. We are probably going to order an evacuation. Because we wait to order evacuations until the very last moment, because we know about how long it's going to take for each zone. We have zones A through F. The zones are on the back page of your guide. And we know about how long we need to evacuate those zones. So we will not order that evacuation until we need to. We will simultaneously open shelters. We will not order you to evacuate without opening a shelter. Our shelters are all schools. All schools are not shelters. Go to our website, you'll be able to see a listing of our shelters. When we order the evacuation, we will order which shelters have been opened, because odds are we're not opening them all at once. Okay? So that's how you figure out. That's part of your planning. So we're making our plan. We want to find out what evacuation zone we're in. Where are we going to go? You don't have to go to our shelter. Find yourself a friend. I always tell people, look at the big white section in the middle of that. And here. You see that big white section? Find yourself a friend. Family member. Find somebody that lives there that you like spending time with, potentially without power. You have to enjoy their company. Find somebody there. Go there. You're going to be more comfortable there. Or find yourself a hotel, usually by 95. The ones in the city of St. Augustine are not going to be in play. The ones here in Ponte Vedra Beach, they're going to be evacuated. So let's find somewhere simply outside of the evacuation zone to go. How are we going to get there? Probably your car. Some folks are transportation disadvantaged. We offer transportation. If you know anyone who has a transportation disadvantage, you can go on our website. We can sign them up. We will come and get them. Depending upon their mobility, we can send a Council on Aging bus, or a St. Johns County school bus will pick them up and bring them to our shelter, because we don't want anyone to have not have a reason to get to safety. Also, just because we haven't ordered an evacuation yet doesn't mean you can't leave. You can. We only ever order mandatory evacuations, okay? We never order voluntary evacuations, because This is America. You are under a voluntary evacuation every single day. You can go wherever you'd like, whenever you would like. Okay? So if you feel unsafe and that storm isn't supposed to be here for 3 days, go on and get in your, if you can, go ahead and evacuate. You do not have to wait for us. Be at the front of the line. Don't be sitting on 95 in traffic with everybody else. If you can go ahead and go. And what about our pets? If you're making a plan for you to leave, your pets need to go with you, wherever you're going. Our shelters, we have pet-friendly shelters, not all of them. You'll see them identified. The closest one to Southland. They're going to be in the north and the south end of the county. There's 2 of them. Timberland Creek and Southwoods. Those are pet-friendly shelters. You and your pet can go to our shelters. Hotels, many of them will begin accepting pets that may or may not usually accept pets. If it's not safe for you, it is not safe for your pets. And remember, when we are packing our disaster supply kit, we're packing ours with water. And whether you're leaving or staying, we're packing all of our things, copies of important documents, food and water, medicine, and supplies for our pets. And that's the one I like to remind people. I have a dog that takes medicine. We got to get the dog's medicine too. And the vets are way easier to deal with than a pharmacy. Your vet will front you some medicine. They're great about it. Let's make sure that we get all of our medication and supplies ready to go. This is an excellent time to do it. And here, I have 2 ways for you to get information from us. One, you can always call us. Today, St. Johns County, you still get, if you call the phone number that's in that brochure, when the EOC is activated, 24 hours a day, you get a live human being answering that phone, okay, to answer whatever questions you may have. But if you prefer not to chat with us, you can do text, and it's text St. John's EOC 888-777. These are text notifications. These are not going to be critical life safety things. These are going to be things like, we have sandbag site locations opened at 5 locations around the county. The debris trucks will be on your road this week. We have points of distribution open at this. For the life safety updates, it's Alert St. John's. That's also in your book. Alert St. John's is how we will tell you you've been ordered to evacuate, don't come back yet. Things like that. These are life safety. The Sheriff's Office uses them to missing and endangered people. They use this. Things like that. Any sort of evacuation type notifications. We do boil water advisories as well. So these are critical advisories. And the great thing about this is you get to pick. Do you want us to call you, text you, or email you? I recommend a call or a text because I imagine y'all are similar to me. You're not reading your email all the time, right? But we will not tell you your garbage day has changed on here. The only way these are coming through is their critical life safety. You can sign up for weather alerts, but I will tell you this, I always like to be a cautionary tale. Those weather alerts come out when they're issued, okay? Some things like freeze warnings come out 12 and 24 hours in advance. Sometimes that is midnight or 1 in the morning. So I want to be your cautionary tale when you sign up for your weather alerts. A freeze warning is probably, it's dire to your plants. I think we all experienced that last year. It was terrible. I lost quite a few plants. My pineapples lived inside my garage for about 2 months because it was so cold. But just remember that. You will automatically be signed up for tornado warnings because that is a critical life safety issue. And that is what I have to talk about. And the really good news is the Red Cross is here with us, and they are invaluable when it comes to especially recovery. I'm going to let her, she's going to come up after me, but does anybody have any, I'm not going anywhere, but does anybody have any questions at the moment for me? Yes, ma'am.
So when you go into a mandatory evacuation,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a cousin in Fort Myers that went exactly at the time of the mandatory evacuation and turned around after 9 hours of being on the highway. So sometimes I question, is it safer to shelter in place in that occasion or be on the street?
I would tell you at this moment, because usually what will happen at that moment, if before the storm comes, they will get law enforcement out there, and the law enforcement will start forcing the traffic to move. I will tell you in Irma specifically, because the entire south part of the state evacuated north, They forced us to open a shelter that we did not have open at the interstate so they could force people into it. Because I will tell you, staying home is not going to be, staying on the road is not safe. But at some point, the law enforcement is going to push people into safe areas. They're not going to leave them there. Because staying home, especially in Fort Myers, especially if we're talking about Ian, it absolutely wasn't safe there. There was feet of water there. But we do understand that frustration. And that's why we're just like, hey, don't wait till we tell you. Go on ahead and get out on the highway and get going. Yes, sir.
I have a bridge question.
I love bridge questions.
From what I know is they shut them down at 35 miles an hour.
So what we actually do is we do not close bridges. Usually the wind does it. Actually, usually what does bridge closures is we refer to them as either accessible or inaccessible. The sheriff's office is not going to leave folks out at those bridges because it's not safe for them. There is that mysterious 40 miles an hour that many folks will say. We tell you it is no longer safe at 40 miles an hour. What usually happens is the approaches to the bridges begin flooding. And I will tell you, like, for example, if you're leaving here going on the Palm Valley Bridge, 40 mile an hour winds on the top of that bridge are not going to be great. Many times what they'll do is they'll send a sheriff's deputy over it, and we'll start telling people it is no longer safe to cross a bridge. But we actually, the sheriff's office has made a stance that they will not close them. What we do have, though, is a bridge dashboard that will become public. We will put it on our social medias. It's a bridge dashboard, and it will show you each bridge in this county, and it will show you that it's either accessible, inaccessible, and then we will mark it yellow if there's an issue, which means, like, sometimes the Bridge Alliance in St. Augustine, the approach on Anastasia Island will go underwater. And at that point, there's no one going across the bridge because it's all underwater. But we do not officially close bridges.
Previously, I've been stopped, but I have like a FEMA card, and then they let me through.
Now, usually what that means is on the backside. We may block access on the backside because we don't need a bunch of looky-loos. Yep. Going over there, we don't want a bunch of looky-loos. Many times what we're doing is there's search and rescue is out there, especially along A1A. There's a ton of debris everywhere, and they will hold people at the bridges post-disaster. And what that is that is trying to keep people that have no business being over here. Just because they want to see the damage, some sort of like damage tourism. We're not doing that. So that's what you're talking about there. Usually a driver's license that says you live here will be good enough to get you back here so you can get to your home. Yes, ma'am.
Let's talk about the local news. I guess we're kind of in the same situation because I live in Lincolnville, she's in Anastasia Island, you're where you are.
Yep.
So the people that are looking, it's very frustrating because people decide to come in their lanes and they create wakes. As they're
Yes.
going through.
And the city of St. Augustine struggles with that a great deal. If you didn't hear her question, she lives in Lincolnville in the city of St. Augustine. They're posting things, asking people, please, because I will tell you that you're going to have multiple extreme high tides. They're used to it. The king tides in the fall, they begin coming in. And we will begin messaging, please do not, first of all, you are driving your car through salt water. That is not good for your car. Which, I mean, if you're doing that, but you're creating wake that is pushing, these homes didn't have water, and your wake is causing water to go in those homes. So what we message, the city of St. Augustine messages, and they really started pushing it last year, please don't drive through flooded roadways. It's not safe. And two, it is salt water. Your car is not going to last very long if you drive your car in salt water. And you are damaging other people's homes by driving through that. You're absolutely right, and it is very frustrating.
Where
These,
they find the request speed bumps.
yeah, with these upcoming tides especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we got it from the National Weather Service, these extreme tides that'll be coming in again.
I think they get the insurance industry, it's just destroying.
Yeah,
People are incurring damage that they wouldn't ordinarily have.
Yep.
On their vehicles. So.
right. I am going to pass this over to our friends at the Red Cross. Oh, I'm going to give this back to you first, sir.
Thank you, Kelly. Now I'll introduce our next speaker, Whitney Carney. Whitney serves as the Chief Development Officer of the North and Central Florida region of the American Red Cross. Whitney has 20 years of experience serving on the front lines as a fundraiser. Whitney?
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Okay, so is it okay for me to walk around? Okay, Kelly set the precedent, so I'm going to keep walking around. So want to say a very big thank you to Kelly, and I'm so glad that we were able to connect. The American Red Cross, we get our information very much from FEMA, so a lot of the information that I was going to share, you're going to hear it twice. So I'm glad we didn't do that. While I am, there's a couple of things more specifically regarding sheltering in place versus a go bag when you're evacuating. I'm going to pull up. But before I do, does everyone have their phone? Yes? Okay. I promise you this is not a sales pitch. There is no cost affiliated with it. And you're really going to thank me after you do this. The American Red Cross Emergency app, if you go into your app store and you just put in Red Cross Emergency, we're gonna walk through the app, its features, and how fantastic it is, and how it really correlates perfectly with all the information that Kelly told you, and will allow you to dig in deeper. And so, when I'm gonna keep talking a little bit, so don't worry about. I won't be offended that you're doing exactly what I've asked you to do. So appreciate that. Okay, and then the clicker, right here. Okay, got it, okay. And Kelly, you know, Kelly's with emergency management and is prepared, she brought her own clicker. So I think that is a nice, I'm gonna take that trick with me. Wherever I go, I will bring my own clicker. Okay, oh, this is fun, trivia's fun, right? Let's see, what is a tropical cyclone? And a little bit more in depth, does anyone know the difference between a typhoon and a hurricane?
Yes.
Yes, you do?
South of the equator.
No. Close. It depends on what ocean it is. So you're on the right track. So a hurricane is Atlantic, right? And then a typhoon is in the Pacific. So when you hear about typhoons, it's basically the same thing. It's just one's in the Pacific. So when you hear about the typhoons that impacted Guam time and again, the Philippines, that's going to be a typhoon. We worry about hurricanes. So that's a little bit of fun trivia. Okay. And when I say fun, I'm just, not fun at all, but okay. And then a tropical cyclone. So once it reaches a maximum sustained wind of 74 miles per hour, it's classified as a hurricane, typhoon, or tropical cyclone. And then we get into, okay, you know about the cats, you know when to worry. As Floridians, we're like, talk to me when we're talking about like a cat 3, cat 2, right? Like a cat 1, I'm sure that we've all said, okay, we can sit this one out. Pay attention, right? So tropical depression, 0 to 38. Tropical storm, 39 to 73, and then we're getting to your category 1, 74 to 95, and then what is considered a cat 5? Anybody? Very close, Charlene, very close. So anything over 155 miles per hour is a category 5. Okay, let's see, what else? Okay, and we know the greatest threat from hurricanes is not just the wind. It's not the wind, it's really the storm. So Kelly, the flooding, the risks associated with storm surge and flooding. Let's see, we went through this. Okay, we all know how to turn off our own utilities at our home. I don't, so this is a good reminder. I just moved into a new home. I'm like, what would I do? Is everyone first aid certified? If you are not, and you would like the American Red Cross to come out and teach you, your family, your business, we can do so. We also have a hands-only demonstration that is also something nice that's free of charge. And now we're talking about critical supplies. So preparedness, we're always thinking about building that kit. There's a couple of different kits, right? So if you're gonna shelter in place, like I know many of us do, you're going to wanna have at least 2 weeks of emergency supplies. For your evacuation kit, when you're on the road, you want 3 days of supplies. So my friend over here in the blue, she asked an amazing question. What happens when I evacuate? There's a mandatory evacuation, and the entire Southeast is trying to get out, right? Like we are all on 95. We are all trying to get our way out where it's clear, and then the roads are stopped, and then the storm's coming for us. Okay, so now's the time. Open up your app. You guys ready? Okay. So when you open that up, first thing that we're gonna do, well, now that we're talking about sheltering, you will see if at any point that the Red Cross is supporting, and there's two types of shelters. So for the sake of this conversation, we're gonna talk about an evacuation shelter. Those shelters are managed by emergency management. They are put up with the counties, the cities, what have you. We come in and we help support. So very important distinction with an evacuation shelter. And I'm going to make an assumption about the folks in this room that maybe we think we would never have to be in a shelter. It's situations like you shared, there's nowhere else to go. And we know that that shelter has been graded for whatever cat hurricane. We know it's going to be safe. We know we're going to have law enforcement, we're going to have the fire department, we're going to have the American Red Cross. What we're not going to guarantee is hot meals, blankets, maybe we'll have a cot if you're lucky, but you want to be prepared for that. And the idea is not because we don't want to do it, it's really to say we want this to be a very temporary option for these folks that need it. Okay, and we know about birth certificates, passports, security cards, all of this information. We know to keep this safe, we know what to do, we know watch versus warning. I thought the cookie metaphor was adorable. Let's see. So, I mean, we know what to do. You board up. We know about the dangers for a generator. It's very, very real. Of course, never put them in the home. Always keep them outside. Never touch a fallen power line. When Irma came through, this is, I mean, right, this guy says you can't live forever, you gotta go somehow. This was like, well, what's gonna happen? Yes, yeah. So Irma was supposed to make a direct hit. I was living in Sarasota. So I said, why don't we evacuate to my parents' house in St. Mary's, Georgia? So wake up, and I was like, what is that? The air conditioning? What is that water noise? And you look down, and it's like, oh, there's an inch of water in my parents' home from Irma, right? Because we knew that it was gonna, in the middle of the night, we're all watching it, and it's, oh no, it's coming straight here. And then the power lines, right? So you get up, and you go, and you assess the damage, power lines. And then you look down and it's puddle, power line. Like, why am I out here? It's all these things that you don't think about, that it's not the wind, it's not drowning in the storm surge, but it's the dangers that have been created because of all of this infrastructure, because of the chaos. It's what is in the water, right? Like what is in this standing water? What gators? I mean, these are very, very real things to consider. Snakes, wildlife, what have you. And then again, I think this is the one thing that when Kelly and I were just sharing notes afterwards, right? So food. If your fridge goes out, don't eat the food that's in the fridge. Avoid drinking tap water until you know it's safe, which again, I'm sure the county will give you alerts, will let you know, what have you, what you can and can't drink. But again, that's why it's so important to have a gallon of water, clean and disinfect everything that got wet. Let's see. And then going back to the water damage, when you think about Ian, and you think about, okay, well, we all have an idea in our mind as to who lives in Fort Myers. Think about those retirees that come down from Ohio, and they put all of their money in a manufactured home. They pay for it in cash. They don't have to have homeowners insurance. Maybe they don't, right? Maybe they don't have the means to, but they think they're going to be okay. The storm surge got so bad where it's just mold. And these folks, right, that are living in these homes, and they don't have the means, they don't have the family, they don't have the resources to get out, but it was that mold, and you couldn't necessarily see it, when we would go by and do our damage assessments to provide financial assistance or to give them all the opportunities, but then the mold happened. And so it's all these other factors that come into play outside of just the immediate, the wind and the rising water. Heat-related illness, that's a big one. Heart attacks, huge one, right? So take care of yourselves and each other. Let's see. And then work with a partner, pace yourself. And again, the app, go in and play around with it. There's a lot of bells and whistles. It can get as in-depth as you want to. But it really is an amazing app and just something that you have in your back pocket if and when. We all know those times where it's, I remember Hurricane Floyd. I think this was like maybe 1995. I was, I think, 10 years old. And we were driving and it was just stopped. Traffic was stopped. And then it was like, well, what do we do when we run out of gas? What do we do? What do we do when there's no hotel? Well, the Red Cross is there, and there's been so many times where I've heard stories of, I never thought I would need a shelter until I needed a shelter. And then the Red Cross was there. So, okay. Do we feel prepared? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to add something. I know there's always so many insurance people, but it's so important to make sure that their insurance coverage is adequate.
Right.
So, make sure about that. And I know I'm everybody's best friend because when it comes time, everybody needs somebody to do the charcoal group or to drive it in.
Okay.
So maybe people will.
And it's Lou, right? So, everybody come talk to Lou. If you've got any insurance questions, Lou's your gal. Okay. Yes, sir.
I got a pro tip. Anybody that does have to leave your house for an extended period of time, you've got a deep freezer or whatnot, you've got a ton of meat or whatever in your freezer, take a small glass of water, freeze it, and then put a penny on top of it, and put it in the freezer. Penny's at the bottom of the cup, and you get back, throw everything out. If it's still there,
Your insurance.
Bob's your uncle.
Your insurance.
Take a glass of water, freeze it, and then put a coin on top of the ice. If the coin is at the bottom of the cup, you know that it's from. Because it may come from your back. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah.
All right. Kelly, did you hear that? You want to let FEMA know? The penny trick? Okay.
I've done it, yeah. I've lived it.
That is a really good idea because you don't know. Like, how long has it been? Did it go out?
And it may come
Back, right. And you just
I've
don't.
been back here twice. I mean, I've been down this
Right.
and flooded my house, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the risk. Power comes back on.
Yeah, you come back to the great house.
Yeah.
Salmonella's back, that's awesome, yeah.
My ice cream would have melted. I would have.
Or just make sure you keep some ice cream in there. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, this is a lot of fun. And again, I am a fundraiser by trade. Marianne, thank you to Marianne for the invitation. I love coming out and doing this. And then when Kelly was like, oh, we kind of have the same information, I was like, let's let the expert lead this one. Here's an app. So, but I appreciate you all. This has been a privilege, and thank you for the invitation. Okay.
All right, thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Whitney, for the important work that you do and for coming out today and sharing it with all of us. Next is our, just announce our upcoming events. So on September the 10th, the Chamber Foundation is hosting their gala, Denim and Diamond. You also have a sheet at your table here that lists these as well. On Friday, August 14th, the historic St. Augustine Area Council, Art as Soul of the Nation's Oldest City. And then on Tuesday, August 18th, we have Network Now. And then the Chamber Before Hours event at Ascension St. Vincent is going to be held on Wednesday, August 19th. To attend any of these events, you can just register online, and we encourage you to bring guests and come on out and enjoy. And that's it for today's luncheon. Feel free to stay and network with others or finish your lunch or ask questions to these professionals over here. And thank you all for coming.